The 1984 Scale Masters Championships represent an annual tradition of selecting through regional fly-offs the best scale models and pilots from around the country. Each year, this event gets bigger and better. This year's competition featured more than 45 contestants compared to reports of only 11 during last year's meet. The Scale Masters Championships is what you might call a melting pot, containing a broad mixture of personalities, qualities, and accomplishments from all over the United States. And even more important, as with many other large meets, it reunites old acquaintances while creating new ones. This event is primarily governed by the AMA rules, with the exception that there's only one category, which combines sport scale and giant scale. The maximum weight for the models was 40 pounds, and the maximum engine size was up to 3.7 as a single or 4.4 in twins. Also, a limit of 2 mechanical options in flight. The event is flown in 4 rounds, providing contestants with a great opportunity to post improved flight scores. Well, the engines are started and the pilots are ready now, so let's journey over to the flight line and check out all the action. An interesting point regarding the aircraft flown in the contest is that there was approximately a 50-50 division of kit and scratch-built models. The majority of the models were in the 5th and 6th scale range, now a very popular trend, which was predicted several years ago for reasons of which you will see during the course of this program. The first round was kicked off early Saturday morning. The first model that we caught was this smart-looking SBD-5 Dauntless taxiing into takeoff position. There were gusting winds, or disgusting winds rather, quartering from the north end of the airstrip throughout most of the day, a common indication of lurking gremlins somewhere in the area. In spite of these windy threats, though, most of the flyers cope with them quite effectively, and those of you who are competitive-minded may want to pay close attention to the manner in which this was done. One of the numerous surprises we encountered in the event was seeing this top-flight P-39 Air Cobra competing. But bear in mind that it was extensively modified with detail and flew quite well. After an exciting dive bombing routine, the SBD-5 makes an impressive landing. John Madison gets his Platt ME-109 fired up and ready for flight after informing the judges of his mechanical options. John experienced a slight problem on his first flight, which he later explained. Next up was this Byron Spitz Special with an OS Tartan twin. One of several ducted fan models competing was this Violet A4 Skyhawk. As the Pitts glides in for a smooth landing, Dave Platt, a trendsetter in fifth scale, wheels his outstanding A6M50 around for flight. The model is powered by a Super Tiger 2500. It has flaps and retracts. The A4 Skyhawk makes a very realistic pass, as wife Margaret stands by, ready to assist pondering husband Dave. In the meantime, a giant scale PT-19 is fired up for flight. The model features operating flaps and a very beautiful finish. Also, one of the most impressive smoke systems that we've ever seen.
PT-19 going up right now with Mario Gentleman.
What contest would be complete without a Cap 21? As flown by Steve Ellison, who placed 15th with 89 points in the fourth round. Dave Platt, now fired up and ready to go, installs the top half of his two-piece cowling. It's a very unique setup. Steve's Cap 21 was one of the very few models that didn't use up the entire runway or roll off the edge during landing. Little did Dave know that this was going to be a mark flight attempt.
Strange things going on there on the takeoff. Comes back down to the prop off and it overrevs and then they get a rocket. Bad break there for Dave.
Other than a crash, there aren't too many sounds that can terrify a modeler. Fortunately, the ruggedness of the Super Tiger prevailed with no damage. The model, however, suffered considerable damage to the landing gear. The premier moment. The current reigning Masters champion, Tom Cook, readies his extremely popular ducted fan F4 Phantom. A good proto-taxi is just as important as the flight itself. As Tom positions the ship, the largest model of the event, a de Havilland Mosquito, is towed by its builder, Larry Scott. Reaching speeds in excess of 100 miles per hour, Tom achieved his highest flight score on this flight of 89.5. Weighing approximately 20 pounds and powered by two OS-65 engines, the F4 drops quite rapidly, and the drogue chute helps quite a bit on paved runways. Tom suspects possible damage or malfunctions and makes a quick check. Looks okay to us, Tom. High overhead, the roar of two Quadro-type engines hauls Scott's Mosquito through the skies. Would have been even better with retracts. A model like this could be a great motion picture candidate. One of four P-47s comes in for a good landing. Of the four, this one, we believe, posted the highest flight score of 92.375. With flaps down, the Mosquito demonstrates its apparent light weight, considering its great size. The ship later spiraled straight down and was completely demolished. One of the few four-strokes competing, this giant-scale Newport 28 flew very realistically, though it only placed 36, with a flight score of only 78. Burt Baker streaks right out behind him with his P-47 Jug. You should have known it. Another common sight, the Piper Cub, also fitted with a four-stroker. Baker repeats Platt's act of ripping out the landing gear. We were a bit curious. Anyway, we appreciated the spot landing for the cameras, the scene, as the boys in the pits stoke up another blower. Bob Fiorenz executes a perfect takeoff, heading into his best flight, capturing a flight score of 89 points. This man needs no introduction. After more than 5 years of competing success with this ship, the hat and the model is a clear trademark. With high winds, high speed, and more, Bob makes a split S. Again, the execution of perfection. It's interesting to note that typically in the beginning of a contest, having several rounds, nervousness and mishaps seem to occur the greatest. Yet most of the contestants in this event achieved their highest flight scores here in the first round, in spite of the high winds. Considering the judging and the pilot endurance ability, this could be a good point worth examining. Kent Walters, known as Cowboy, from Arizona, demonstrates his popular routine of super accurate dive bombing. Fighting a crosswind, this Focke-Wulf 190A almost gave us a good shot at the cockpit while in flight. As round 2 approaches, Dave Platt works quickly, repairing his landing gear, while wife Margaret relaxes in the shade. Another premier moment. Dennis Crooks of Big Rock, Illinois, with his fascinating TBM Avenger. We had a chance to chat with this seemingly shy but cordial modeler prior to coming to this contest. So now you have to look forward to the Scale Masters tournament in Kansas City?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Quite nervous about it.
Why?
Well,
you've done pretty good so far. Now, why are you nervous on this one?
Well, it's at the Scale Masters, you're dealing with the best builders and flyers in the nation. Now, me being a relative newcomer to this situation, I feel that I can build comparable, but flying in a contest situation, it's a little intimidating almost, being surrounded by the people that you recognize as being the best, and I'm flying with them, competing with them. It makes me nervous.
Well, in contrast, how did you feel when you flew in the regionals?
Nervous.
But did you during your flight, did you find that it just kind of went away and you got into your flying?
You know, once the aircraft breaks ground, everything else tends to take a back seat. And yeah, I do calm down once I actually get in the air. That helps a lot. But taxiing out, prior to that, of course, starting the engine, it's very tough for me to stay cool. But once I get in the air, well, then I'm so engrossed in flying the airplane that I tend to forget about everything else around me.
Well, nervous or not, Dennis, in our opinion, performed quite admirably, and you can bet that as time passes, he'll be one tough modeler to beat.
Back there in Big Rock, Illinois. This airplane does a lot of things. And away he goes. Dennis Truss. Give me about another 30 seconds. You're going to see that airplane do some neat after he's done flying it as a tactical match.
All seemed to be going quite well until landing, where apparently one of those nasty gremlins grabbed the controls. A real shocker to everyone, namely the pilot. Dennis received a low 62.5 score on this flight and missed the second round. Afterwards, he came back to continue on.
Man coming in to let her down, which he does down at the end.
Chuck Fuller opted to roll off grass with his smoking Waco taper wing, another fine performer going after his highest flight score of 84.5, as Cliff Tacey, assisted by Bob Underwood, preps his very popular Citabria. Good things can also come in threes, as Roger Hansen taxis yet another F-4 Phantom to the end of the strip for takeoff and another dazzling flight demonstration. Roger's final round flight netted him a flight score of 91.5, bringing him up to fourth place. The strangest act of the day was Leonard McCoy's Dornier 23G, which seemed reluctant to want to fly. Could this be a dodo bird in disguise? When it did go, it wasn't sure which way to go. As the model waved its wings through the breezes, a couple of full-scale pits had to look twice. The model was so happy to be back on the ground, it gave it a big kiss. Oh well, back to roosting. Colonel Art Johnson received the third highest static score with his Super Sharp F100 Super Sabre. One of 4 Zeros competing, Don Lean points it skyward after a well-controlled ground roll, followed by an attractive Stearman. A sad note about Johnson's F-100 is that as each round passed, his problems grew until the 4th round, in which it rolled in and crashed near the lake at the south end of the field. While John Madison's ME-109 made a forced landing, Art's F-100, apparently by coincidence, released its tanks for a direct hit on a downed aircraft and its pilot. As if things weren't bad enough, now we're being napalmed. A victory roll is in order.
We're going to fling them, but they go a little farther than you anticipate. I did see it out of the corner of my eye, but it was a little too late.
Can we talk?
Another unique and interesting model was Bob Carlson's FM2 Wildcat with scale operating gear and flaps. From our experiences with full-scale warbirds, Bob's Wildcat, in our opinion, sported the most authentic weathered finish we've ever seen. Bob's Wildcat was also powered by a 4-stroke engine. Another longtime winner was KCRC's Fred Hewlin with his bomb-laden YAT-28E. Carlson was another victim plagued with problems. In the later round, Bob was credited with the save of the day when his ship almost hit the ground 4 times in a wild attempt to land.
And Fred Hewlin picks it up off the line down there.
Someone once said that if you fly 'em, you break 'em. We talked with John Madison of Minnesota. John describes the features of his beautiful ME-109, a Dave Platt kit, and elaborates on the causes of his troubles earlier.
This is it's a Dave Platt model. It's an ME-109 G6. It's a Messerschmitt. It's a German fighter. It's one of the most produced World War II fighters that were made in World War II. Over 30,000 were made of this plane.
Okay. What is the weight?
Weight of this one?
Let's put it this way. What are the characteristics?
As far as this plane goes?
Yeah.
Okay. The engine I have in it is a Super Tiger 2000, which I'm flying a 16/8 prop on. I have Dave Platt retracts. It has retracts in it. Going through, it's a fiberglass covering with resin with K&B primer with Howe epoxy paint. Dave Platt pilot in it. Weighs about 16.5 pounds.
Okay. What about flying?
Flying, it flies real good. I'm leery of, once I get in the air, I'm real fine, but I'm leery of takeoffs and landings. Can get a little squirrely on the ground, both ways, as far as landing and takeoff. But in the air, it flies real good.
Okay. And how long did it take you to construct the airplane?
As of right now, I've got over 400 hours tied up in this one.
400 hours. That mounts up to about what, a year?
Well, being I'm an industrial arts teacher, I have my summers off.
Yeah.
So I end up putting some long weeks when the school's out. But otherwise, yeah, I could add up to a year's time real easy, or over that even.
Let's see. How are things going for you in a contest?
As far as the contest going, I had a bad mishap on the first flight where I almost ran into the judges. But otherwise, the other flight I was having some problems with radio problems, but I found out what was wrong. I pinched one of my servo wires and I short-circuited my battery pack. So I'm actually lucky to have a plane yet. I put in a 64 flight with that. I'm hoping that was my problem, so I should do better this time around.
With round 2 nearby, Dave makes final adjustments on his repaired landing gear in time after scoring a 0 with his 0 in round 1. Dave stated that he would beat the socks off of him in the second round. Well, he got at least one sock. Fred Hewlin describes his different YAT-28E.
Of course, the normal flying surfaces, aileron, elevator, rudder, throttle, ground steering, retractable gears, gear doors close, flaps extend, it drops 2 bombs, it has an air brake.
Okay, now is this a scratch built? Or is
Yeah, it's completely scratch built. It's fiberglass fuselage, and the wings are foam with balsa sheeting and coverite, and then painted with poly-S colors, and it has a top coat of epoxy with some flattening agent in it.
What is the weight?
Right now it's about 13 pounds after the conversions. And I did matter of fact, it's kind of notable that literally when I made this model, it was a T-28D. I flew it 3.5 years in competition and then retired it. And one winter I decided I'd like to have a different scale project, but I didn't have, but I didn't have enough time to build another whole scale, so I just literally took a saw to the nose and sawed it all
What
off.
about the size differences compared to, I think there's a couple of kits of the T-28 on the market. Is there much difference in the size between this and those planes?
Of the ones I've seen, it's a little larger.
A bit larger?
I don't know for sure about all of them, but of the ones that I've seen, this is a little larger.
How long have you had it?
Well, it was originally made as a T-28D in 1974 is when it was finished. And then it was converted to the YAT-28E and was finished in early '82, and then I went on to the Nats to compete with.
Well, how have you done so far? You know, what scores have you had?
Today?
Yeah.
Oh, well, today, well, this is the second day. Yesterday I had a very, very high flight score to work with, and I was hoping for another one. We had a just glass smooth flight, bounced just a little bit on the landing, but I think the judges were a little bit tighter today.
Fred scored a 90.5 in the first round, ultimately capturing 14th place. We also had a chat with Dennis Crooks. Following up on a shocking mishap of a crash landing in the first round, we asked Dennis about the possible cause of the crash and a current status report on the condition of the model.
Well, a lot of things can happen at the same time. It's difficult to really sort it out, you know, even after it's all over, you put the pieces back together. What it appeared was just a gust of wind is my best bet. You hate to try to blame a crash on some other factor other than the pilot. It sounds like maybe you're trying to bow out of the responsibility. But there are sometimes when the evidence just points so much to a gust of wind that at this point I'm going to have to at least try to blame it on the wind.
Yeah. But at that point, when it came down, you weren't really complete out of your flare, were you? Or were you ready to settle down or not?
No, the airplane was still very much in flying condition. I came in, I made the approach a little faster than normal. I left the flaps up. You know, the flaps down in the crosswind makes matters even worse. So I was trying to keep the speed up, and had the airplane been in a position to touch down, I would have fled it. But at that point, no, I was not ready to flare.
Still flying?
Yes. Up until this happened, I still had, complete control of the airplane, so there was no question as to whether or not the airplane had stalled.
Was the damage very extensive?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer for a person who spent 3 years building his airplane. Structurally, no, it wasn't really significant, but mentally and cosmetically, it was severe. There's Tom Cook, the current Masters champion, volunteered the use of his workroom, which is considerable. Most any piece of equipment that you could need is there and available. So without his volunteering his space, plus the help of my wife, she's almost as much a part of this. There's only so many hands when you got to hold things together and glue at the same time, it don't work. So with the aid of Tom Cook's workshop and generosity, and my wife's determination, we got it back together.
Speaks a lot for the camaraderie in this kind of hobby.
It makes you feel good when you get in a situation like this and you need help. It's available.
Everybody wants to see you get up.
Yeah.
Okay, Dennis, we'll see you on the flight line.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Simply gorgeous is the best description of this Hawker Typhoon by Richard Lewis. However, the model made a couple of wild attempts in getting airborne. Though the model appeared to be a bit on the heavy side, it really flew with great realism. While Lewis was in flight, this PT-19 came in wildly and broke a leg. Lewis apparently said he ain't gonna outdo me and slammed into the runway right behind him. Moving on down the list of victims, we later learned that this pile of remains was Kalk's A-4 Skyhawk. It had stalled into the trees. We talked with one of the officiating members of the hosting club regarding the airfield conditions and the flying of the contestants.
Okay, what we were talking about was a lot of the people that belong to modeling clubs, they fly at retired full-size airfields. There's a lot of airfields available that, especially were used during the Second World War for training purposes, and now they've been turned over to parks, and it makes excellent flying sites, obviously. So, but a lot of people are used to flying off a runway that's 2,000 foot long and 200 foot wide, and it's obvious when they get to a modeling field that's designed just for models that they don't have quite the necessary skills it takes to keep right on a runway. Our runway is 500 foot long, which is right for models of this scale, but it's only 40 foot wide. And I've gotten kind of a kick out of watching some of the so-called big shots fly and stay right down the middle of the runway. And it's even hard for me sometimes to hit this runway, but I still feel that I see him come in and I'm saying, give it some rudder, and watch it roll off to the side. So.
Now entering the last round, it was give it all you got for the contestants. The winds had died a bit and the sun was shining, and there were previous scores to beat, not to mention the title for Grand Champ. So again, the battle continued for the high stakes that lay ahead. With all rounds now completed, the flyers milled around waiting for score results and the presentation of awards. In the meantime, a full-size T-28 made a couple of wing-rocking passes as some of the contest hotshots staged a mock air battle for the spectators. The objective was to defeat this unique enemy, a bloke Jap ace, as he was called, with odds of their 4 to his 1. We added sound effects for realism. And now for that final moment, the presenting of beautiful trophies to a great bunch of guys. The special last place award went to Shane Kramer, who crashed a very fine 0. Third place went to Dennis Crooks. Second place goes to Kent Walters. First place once again went to the reigning champion, Tom Cook. Again, the Best Model Award was presented to Dennis Crooks, the pilot's choice. As we close, we present a special salute to Tom Cook and his fabulous F4 Phantom.